A lot of games in the series has a detective character available that can give you some extra information on characters beyond what you learn in the main story. Unfortunately, the localizers haven't always done a great job with these, and made it so that any fan who wants to learn more about their favorite character has to question the information received. So today, we're going to take a look at some examples of this and see what they should have said. As always, this series contains spoilers, so without further ado, let's get into it. We're starting with a bit of a big one, because this piece of misinformation is reported as fact by most major Suikoden sites, namely that Kimberly has a secret crush on Yam Koo. This is reported on Suikosource, Gensopedia, and the Suikoden Wiki, because this is what Richmond's third investigation into Yam Koo says in the localization. However, it's not true. There are actually two pieces of information that get lost and misconstrued here. What Richmond says in Japanese is 1. Kimberly has forced her way into Tai-Ho's household, and 2. She really dislikes Yam Koo. The term Richmond uses to describe her means a woman who's forced her way into a household, typically by tricking or forcing the man into marriage, but not necessarily. So her status as a wife is a bit up in the air, going by this statement alone at least. But what is clear is that Tai-Ho is not exactly a willing participant. How the rest got turned into her having a crush on Yam Koo, I have no idea. The word used means to find someone a nuisance, which makes a lot more sense considering their one and only interaction in Suikoden 1. There's also the question of how Richmond could possibly find this out, since it's presumably a secret to Tai-Ho and Yam Koo in particular. Richmond isn't omnipotent. He gathers information by following or talking directly to his target or people who know them. So if no one knows about this secret crush, he would have to have gone to Torin and asked her himself, which I find a bit unlikely. Richmond's investigation into Jeane, such as it is, isn't terribly mistranslated. It's just as uninformative in Japanese as it is in English. What is strangely translated, though, is Richmond's reaction to investigating her. First, he claims to be in love with her, while not being able to provide any information, which is weird because in Japanese he just says he's sorry. For the next investigation, it gets even weirder, as he says, she's one hell of a woman, whilst the portrait is shaking. The reason the portrait shakes is more obvious in the Japanese version, as he's terrified of her. And his comment is onomatopoeia for shaking with fear. Either the localizers failed miserably here, or they deliberately changed it for some reason, but the only thing to take from Richmond's investigation into Jeane is that she is scaring him, not charming him. But Richmond isn't the only detective with questionable results about Jeane. In 5, Oburo's final investigation into her very emphatically states that there is nothing mysterious about her at all. However, in Japanese, he's just laughing as if someone just told him a funny joke and he couldn't hear your request. I have no idea what would possess someone to change this into what is essentially fan fiction. I can only presume someone decided to take the game literally and assumed it was a written report. And yes, it would be weird to write down yourself laughing, but I would assume that this is more of a limitation in how the game displays the information and making it repeatedly viewable, rather than a literal written report from Oburo. The localizers of Suikoden 2 also decided to make up some details about Emilia, saying the reason she likes to read romance novels is because she's illiterate in love. The original version just said that it might be a bit surprising for such an intelligent lady to enjoy romance novels. This added detail about her love life by the localizers is not really supported by the rest of the lore, though. For example, she openly flirts with Nash in Suikoden and even asks him out. The third investigation into Millie is completely rewritten in English and offers nothing of value. It's just Richmond questioning if Bonaparte can be considered cute. Personally, I'd ask for my money back on that report. Originally, he says that Millie seems to think she's showing Bonaparte affection by poking him in his eyes, something that gets brought up again in Suikoden where Nash suggests that Bonaparte actually hates it. I have no idea if it was changed because they didn't want to promote animal abuse, but that seems like an extreme overreaction if that's the case. Kid is the detective in Suikoden 3 and is probably the worst detective in the series. Not only does he make up his own cases, the localization didn't exactly help him out either, as he goes from giving little information to virtually none at all. Starting with the little Viki, the localization states that she's cute but speaks like an adult. But what it's actually supposed to say is that she speaks archaically, like she was born a long, long time ago. Hence why she's using words like wherefore. And the investigation into Ace is made completely pointless in English. We already know he's a mercenary, but in Japanese it says that he's a hard worker and that he's just working as a mercenary for the money, which at least tells us he needs money for something. His investigation into Anne leaves out some details as well, as it just says, her pub apparently burned down the same day it opened. Originally, it's made clear that not only did it burn down on the day it opened, that day was the same day Chris attacked the Karaya village at the start of the game. And Eike's investigation seems to suggest that Kid knows every language in the world. How else could he know it doesn't exist? What it's supposed to say is that he speaks in a language that sounds otherworldly. So all of this is to say, don't trust the detectives too much if you're playing the localized version, and let's see if any Suikoden fan sites suddenly change their Kimberly pages now.